can't be your Superman or Captain Kirk. I'ma lay the dick, I'ma put it yellow bones in Gucci skirts. Tryna flirt with me, taking off the shirts. Shine my grill when I'm feeling nice. Shake up my Sprite like a gamer. DSR ain't nothing nice. Freestyle precise, got a break. Shining bright when we in the club. Got movie stars, green up with hugs. No T-rap, move over, bud. Dripping candy fuzz, sipping puff. Ain't too many trying to run with us. I piece cold like a berry slush. 32s on a tour bus. From wrist to ear, we crush. Y'all niggas been fucked up. Let DSR drop 10 of these. Pull the Asian on Portuguese. International pimps, we hope. Blowing trees, bowled up with breeze. I stay on freeze, might make you sneeze. Causing scenes when I'm dropping screens like Jerry Lawler. Call me ice bling when I'm stepping out. Got hoes screaming, what's in his mouth? Dirty South, we puff and clap, making hoes stay in niggas pout. We don't red, getting all these checks. Niggas get away, got us in the bitch. Niggas get no respect. Got a bunch of killers that's ready to flex. Seriously, lyrically, pushing these niggas up off. If you see a bitch in me, my death's an ill play, let her be. Flip a key, dangerously. I'm a crow, you's a humming bee. Trying to cap like you's a G. You spoon fed, I'm off the street stripper, nigga, do you feel the heat? Fuck around and get your life to lead. Purple Bobcat on the creek. Deadly chemical pen and a flipping whips. Taking trips, jumping out in these yellow hips. At the bar, taking major sips. And when I smile, sliding it real. Out in the battlefield. 2-piece near Navy SEAL. Test the roasted with a country grill. He and the clique fighting over the sergeant tub. It's braided on me. Marines behind me if you're plotting on me. Piece of chain of blind and Russian army. Got slugs that'll hit you up and slugged up. Had it up, dubbed up, talking down on the tub. Against your face, tub in Sergeant Tuck. Putting boys in they fucking place. Attending hut, strings in my face, while my rims marching play. Sipping sound like Johnny struck. My fifth fell and it can't get up. Addiction roll, let weed up. Real full of crusted bricks. Ice green, twink spin. Daily when I grab the pen, show naked skin. No block I been, no ballin', boy. Don't make me tell you I'm cold, ho. Got the fofo, cause a nigga about to go tonight. Still purple stripes, stay high as a kite. I watch the fights, I attend, I break, I earn stripes, I dress, I blow pipes. Call me R. Kelly, bitch, I might molest the mic tonight. Yo.
Y'all know that I flip my screens. Y'all know that my mug gets me. Hit the club, lick it clean. I'm a fit for codeine. Damn, Paul Middleton, keep me lean. Y'all know that I went through flex. Don't stop flex with my thumb edge. One complex, they fuck like sex when I hop out the leg like a face. Swing it wide out with wheel. Rims don't know how to do. Crawling low just like the eel. How get lane like the killer. Fat bastard is my name. Gripping grain and turning lane. I feel blame with my street range. DS circles about my chain.
For my essays, look out for that boy Apostle. He's coming soon, baby.
What it do? 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 It's your boy Vino the Most. And shout out to the people. What's up to all my strictly ghetto engines out there? In this big engine country, what's up to Hawk School? And I digress like Root, what it do? In the building for another classic, the Cuban Maroons. You know they've been lying to us, huh? But man, YouTube tripping, man. I can't even post my link to the show. You know what I'm saying? I can't even post my link to the show. And that's why I didn't even want to pay the little thing, man, because I did that the last time, thinking that they was going to let me drop the link. I paid the little core package. I can't even drop the link. That shit gay as hell. That shit crazy. But keep the show going. We're gonna keep the show going, man. It been crazy in the YouTube streets here lately, dog. Seems like niggas been taking shots at the Indians. Everybody taking shots at niggas that saying they Indians, huh? Seems like that's what's going on. That's exactly what's going on. But I wonder why though. Or why they taking shots at us? You know what I'm saying? I don't know, but I don't fuck with niggas, man. Once I see that hating ass shit, once I see that sneak dissing shit, once I see that goofy shit, nigga, I just step back. You know what I'm saying? Can't support you like that. But I fuck with you though, cause you on the nigga side, like what? But shit, nigga, nah, it ain't going down like that over here, boy. I don't know how the other niggas be rocking, but that ain't what that is. Just like I said, I don't give a fuck about none of these niggas. But shout out to the people that do fuck with a nigga. What's up with it? Especially all my folks out here in Oklahoma. All my niggas on the east. All through the city. All my folks down in Wewoka. Yeah, the Seminoles. Think about folks in the whole state. Folks on YouTube, what's up to the MMA? What it do, Milestone Thoughts coming through. You hit the mall and everything you bought. Hope you having a good night, man. For just drop this little build. YouTube hating this shit. I'm trying to drop the link, man, so I can, so niggas can come up if niggas want to come up or whatever, but YouTube won't let me drop the link. Shit, I can't even copy that motherfucker on my other pages and bring it over here. Shit crazy. I don't know why they doing a nigga dirty. But they getting at me right now. I gotta figure it out. Even though I just paid the little shit tonight, I'm thinking, all right, nigga, I paid the little shit. Shit gonna be popping. Shot a nigga back down real quick, like. But I wanted to bring up some things before I get into this Cuba. Because there's some things that I left out on the last couple of bills that I wanted to bring to the forefront to prove my position a little bit better. And this also gonna connect with Cuba because it looks like that Christopher Columbus said that. I appreciate that it looked like Christopher Columbus said that the motherfucking niggas in Cuba look like the niggas from the Canary Islands. So I wanted to bring this source again, but I didn't bring a certain part to where I can validate that these is black people that look like Africans. Because I remember me and Not a Coincidence and Sean P and all them guys, we had a little debate over there on their channel. And, they'll go, You know, them guys was telling me that nah, they don't look like black people, that they look like the Canary people. And that the Canary people more favored Europeans, even though that the Canary Island is an African island right on the coast of Africa on the northwest side. And the reason that I bring that up is because that's part of the mislabeling that I'm trying to point out. That basically they coming over here to America and saying, well, shit, these niggas look like the niggas in motherfucking Africa, so these niggas got to be from Africa, not giving us just due, even though when they first ran up, and in their mind they saying, okay, anything we find over here is an Indian because we think we in India. We think we right next to goddamn China. You know what I'm saying? Until they say even when Christopher Columbus died, that he thought that China was, you know, that Asia was right around the corner or something like that. He didn't think he was too far or something like that. So within their mindset, it's Indian, it's Indian, it's Indian, it's Indian, but then once they start coming across certain people, they like, well, shit, hold on, y'all niggas look like some niggas we already seen before. So y'all, that's what y'all gotta be. That's what y'all gonna be, because you know that's how we moving right now. Anyway, you know they pushing the line on black people. So with them pushing that line, we're gonna get certain titles. And we automatically a beast. We already 3/5, so it really ain't no love like that. But I wanted to point this out because I didn't point this out before. That hold on, 32. So 32. Here we go. So let me let the speaker say it.
Wacklick F. Sly, Kaises. 32. The people to the south are of rather a brown color, either from inheritance or from the hot climate, their skins being toasted by the sun, as they go about nearly naked.
I didn't show that last time because I was perving. And I was kind of moving kind of fast. That's why I was like, man, I got to slow down. I got to, you understand? But I'll be doing so much during the day. And at the same time, I'll be wanting to get, you know what I'm saying, my little bit of information that I do have and going to get that out. So I guess you know what I'm saying? I don't want, you know what I'm saying? I just want to put the information there. I don't want to be wasting a lot of time because when I was doing the video, when I first started doing the first video, it take me some time to put that, you know what I'm saying, to put that stuff together. But I know I've been saying something that I'm going to deal with OneNote and stuff like that. I just ain't jumped over to OneNote and got down on it like that. But I need to look into it, man, to kind of make my presentation a little bit more smoother, you know, where I ain't got a lot of pauses and stuff like that. And, you know, hitting my points, what I want to hit, and not feeling like that I'm leaving some stuff out. Because there's some stuff that I'm fixed to, well, it's a couple of little, well, it's only 2 pages that I'm going to go over with that Drake, you know, thing. You know, to kind of prove my points on that. But just like I say, the people to the south are rather a brown color, either from inheritance or from hot climate. Brown, we know what the color brown look like. That's black people. Brown. They ain't say red, they ain't say yellow, they said brown. But on the north side, they are white, and the women are beautiful and rosy with long hair. So let me bring that back.
He fell in a battle. The people to the south are of rather a brown color, either from inheritance or from the hot climate, their skins being toasted by the sun, as they go about nearly naked. But on the north side they are white, and the women are beautiful and rosy, with long hair.
And I know they're gonna try to twist that by saying, well shit, nigga, on the north side of the island, them niggas just white. But just like I brought up, not that I'm tripping, why I do that? But just like I had brought up the first time that I had brought this up was that where is it at? Hold on. See, that's what I'm saying, man. I forgot to do. Okay, yeah, here we go. So basically, at first, and once again, this Arthur is a Jesuit priest from Spain. He lived in the Canary Islands before he came to the Americas. He ended up being in Ecuador, and he was dealing with the Maroons in Ecuador for a long time and sending letters back to Spain and kind of basically lobbying for them, I guess, from what it made it seem like. But he ended up writing this book, and he was describing the people over there. And he did mention that some say that they are from the Romans, even though it does not appear. But that's what was said. But it's also said, but what he said, it's like I said, he had lived out there, is that my own is that the Guanch derived from their descendants from Africans. So that's just the look. That's what I'm tripping on, is the look. It's the look. So this is the Arthur that lived over there. Is a Jesuit priest that's saying my own, which his own opinion, is that the people from the Canary Islands derive from their descendants from Africans. We just got done seeing within that same area, the Canary Islands, the people to the south are rather brown color. So you're talking about the people on the islands. The people to the south are rather a brown color, either from their inheritance or from the hot climate. So it really don't matter because they look like black people. So when we coming across stuff like this, well, let me fast forward a little bit and I'll just come right back to that real quick. Hold on. Okay, here we go. So, matter of fact, so when we hear about the Canary Island people, right? And we talk about, they say in 1492, the first indigenous enslavement started, whatever, when he first touched down or whatever, right? But I want you to check this out also. So the Africans first came to the New World with Christopher Columbus in 1492. Juan Los Canaries was a crewman on Columbus' flagship with the last name Canaries. And they try to say, well, I ain't gonna say they try to say, but they do say that a black man, an African, came with Christopher Columbus, young man. But we seeing that his name is Juan John Canaries. So you know that he's from the Canary Islands. I just got done giving you a description of the Canary Islands. And then on top of that, they said that he was a black man, or the first black man with the last name Canaries. So why I'm bringing that up is because how did Christopher Columbus describe the Luicans or the Lycans? These are the people that's in the islands. As far as that first, as far as like, I guess the little islands where you would call the Bahamas and shit like that, the little Bahama Islands, I guess, or just the people on the islands. Because they say that the people on the islands was the Tainos and the Caribbean, and the Caribs, and the Algonquins. But Columbus thought that the Luicans resembled the Guanche of the Canary Islands. What's up with this Canary Islands? And why they not saying that they look like black people? But then they saying that the person that came over with Christopher Columbus, the black man, the African, he's from the Canaries because he got the black name Canaries. And plus we know that he was from North Africa because what they say. Hold on, let me see what they say about the first people. Here we go. Here we go, right here. So the first Africans forced to work in the New World left from Europe at the beginning of the 16th century, not from Africa. The first voyage carried enslaved people direct from Africa, and the Americans probably sailed in the 1520s, 1526. So that cut off all that. Right here, what they trying to say. The Spanish explorer Balboa first transported captured Africans to Panama in 1513, which we know that he found black people, the more, not the Moors, but the Maroons of America, found them in Panama and enslaved them. But now they're trying to change history and say that the Spanish explorer transported captured Africans to Panama. And we know that's a false, because they was giving me an argument by saying that, okay, well, yeah, he did find some black people over there, but the documents is saying that they're slaves and that they look like Ethiopians, that they look like Africans, so they got to be the slaves that the Spaniards, so they got to be the Africans uh, that was already brought over by the Spaniards. They got to be the Africans that was already brought over by the Spaniards that ended up leaving the Spaniards down there whenever they went down there to Panama, South America. They ran away and then was the ones. Well, which we know that it wasn't nobody coming from West Africa that was just straight like a wild person, what they call a Buzel, a Bonzel, a Buzel. That'll be somebody that's not broken in, that's not vetted, that don't know the Spanish culture like that. They still pushing their line as far as being an African. And that's what they push also, to say that, well, the first people that was over here rebelling was, warriors from, that just got snatched up from their village and, was already on one, type stuff. Let me back this up a little bit. So according to the historical records, the first successful slave rebellion recorded in the New World occurred when a group of enslaved people aboard a Spanish caravel rebelled against their captors, killing the Spanish crew and sailing back home after being authorized for slave raiding expedition to Central America by Governor of Cuba, Diego Vasquez. Now, this is the same time when Balboa just found the black people down there in Central America. This is the same time when Balboa had found the black people, 1513, around that time. Now let's look at this a little bit more, because I want to show you some more stuff. So hold on, let me go back real quick. And I hope everybody having a good night. So we're going to read this book real quick. A couple of pages, not too many pages. And this book right here, A History of Slavery in Cuba, 1511 to 1868. You see 1907. So we're going to let it read.
by its most favored products, tobacco and sugar. Diego Vel and Quez conquered the island of Cuba EI 5111-2. It is probable that Negro slaves were brought to Cuba in his expedition, or at least shortly after this time. It was customary for expeditions of this kind.
It's probable. It's not a fact. It's probable that Negro slaves was brought to Cuba during that time during this expedition in 1511, 1512, which we know that Balboa discovered the black people in Panama, the Maroons of America, in 1513. So we know the guy didn't send a slave raid down there before Balboa. He sent them down there once he found that them black people was down there.
To carry a few Negro slaves among their members. Many settlers were coming to Cuba from the Isla Española, which had a good supply of Negro slaves whom they very likely carried with them. The Isla Española was comparatively,
and I want to say that majority of them were the black people that was already enslaved coming from the South America part, where they first went down there in 1503, 1509, that whole little time they was down there enslaving, but they never did have a settlement, but they was down there enslaving the black people and getting their numbers up, as far as the enslaved people that they was bringing back to the islands, as far as on Hispaniola, because they wouldn't sending over a lot of people, because like I showed in other videos, from 1492 up to 1502, they only sent up three people, and then a handful only came. So I wouldn't even say that it was even 100 that got sent over before 1510. Probably not even, like, for real, not even close to that. Definitely not no more than 200 or whatever. So when they saying that the Negro slaves is coming from Hispaniola is over there, they wasn't bringing over no slaves from like West Africa during that time. They didn't start really bringing people from over straight from West Africa like that until in the 20s. They was bringing over people that was from North Africa, that was from Spain or North Africa, that was Latinos, that knew their culture, that knew how to do these jobs, that was basically almost trained for the jobs.
A well-settled colony at this time and was the base from which Velázquez's and other expeditions started. The early importations of Negroes were purely haphazard. Practically only Spanish BOM Negroes could go to America, and therefore represented skill of a higher degree than that furnished by the Indian labor.
You see? Spanish-born Negroes was coming over here. Spanish-born Negroes was coming over here and was with the ones working. They're not running into the woods and starting towns and living like Indians and becoming chiefs and doing all that type of stuff. They gonna stay with what they know. They born in Spain. That's just like a Chinese person born in America. He ain't born in China, so he don't really know what's going on in China like that, even though he may go over there, but he born over here. He know what's going on over here. He know how to talk this. He know how to, you know what I'm saying? When he get over there, he kind of lost a little bit, you know what I'm saying? That's the same thing with these guys that they were saying that they was bringing over. There was black people in the beginnings that they saying there was Africans, but they was really born in Spain.
2. Gold seeking and mining were the main employments of the settlers in Cuba who made the Indians do the work, and when they decreased largely in numbers, some means of keeping up the supply of labor had to be fotimed. The few white emigrants would not engage in manual labor. When the colonists discovered that the Negro became very easily acclimated, it seemed easy and desirable. A Sacco, Historia de la Esclata de la Raza Africana, Vol. I. p. 733 and 1515.
Now I want you to listen to this. This is in 1515. This is in 1515.
5. The officials Reals of Santiago asked the king to send them artisans, carts, oxen, and 12 Negroes from Espafila to be employed in building the fortifications of the city.
They're only requesting 12. They're only requesting 12. So all this, it's hundreds of slaves coming over. It's a whole bunch of Africans and stuff so-called coming over here. No, it's not a lot. But you know what is a lot? It's the indigenous people that's deep, that's deep enough to where they can have towns and villages and forts, and they're making shoes and they're fighting.
Sacco, Historia de la Esclavitud de la Raza Africana. To supplement the Indian by African Labadere, the government did not receive with favor the requests of the colonists to allow the import of Negroes. It was induced by the fervid and persistent appeals of Bartolomé VI de las Casas, the Apostle of the Indies, to order a strict inquiry into the condition of the Indians, which he represented as deplorable. He asked, on request of the colonists, that each one be allowed to bring into the West Indies about a dozen Negroes from Spain, who, they said, would free the Indians from much of their hard labor. After
This is late in the game. This is late in the game. Well, I ain't gonna say it's late in the game. That's only because the niggas over here really just ain't listening to them like that. They just can't get a grip of them like that. So they calling from people from Spain. They just calling for more workers. But we already know that the people that's already here look like the people from the Canary Islands, which look like black people.
Consultation with the Casa de Contratación 6N, the directive body for the affairs of the Indies, it was decided that 4,000 Negro slaves were needed for Española, Cuba, Jamaica, and Puerto Rico. Consequently, in 1517, the king granted the first asiento, or contract, giving the right to introduce the above number of Negroes from Africa.
And that was really, I guess, 1517, 1518. And that was just given the contract. That didn't pop off until the 20s, to where they were so-called moving people like that. And then when they were moving people within the 20s, it was just by like 40 at the most. They so-called wasn't moving people in the hundreds like that until like the 1540s, 1530s, so-called. So we really got to look at this.
The sale of the privilege later brought a plea from Las Casas that the price of slaves would be thereby raised too high for poor colonists, and the purpose of the asiento vitiated, *300 were one the fact that the labor of one Negro was considered to be worth that of 4 Indians gave a reasonable basis to the demand. Herrera, Historia General, December. I. Lib 9, Cap. 5. December. 2. Lib 2, Cap. 8. Las Casas, Historia de las Indias, Lib 3, Cap. Loa. C.F. Helmolt, History of the World, Volume 1, page 395. Ibid, Las Casas was not the first to suggest the import of Negroes into the Indies. That was done by the order of predicadores in 151-1, Sacco, Historia de la Esclavitud de la.
So just like he said, suggest. That don't mean that it happened. Suggestions. They been making suggestions. They made a suggestion before that also. That don't mean that they sent them. See, that's because they trying to dilute the numbers. They are diluting the numbers when they do that. Because when they're finding people over here, they trying to justify by saying, well, they did send so many people. Nah, it was only, they wasn't sending people over here like that. They was finding black people over here and enslaving them and doing them dirty. They was the ones that was running away and that was dying. The black people that look like the Ethiopians, the black people that look like the Guineas, the black people that look like the Canaries. We got a wide range over here. We been having a wide range.
Raza Africa. Allotted to Cuba but then timber actually carried there, if any, was small. Becatee's Cuba was very poor, the price was high, and the asiento short-lived. In spite of the high cost of special licenses to import slaves, a few were brought in at this time by that method. A small amount of smuggling took place.
You see that Cuba was poor. They wasn't bringing in people like that because it was too high. But they just doing it big because they got the black people over there that they're enslaving. Those are the indigenous that so-called died out. No, it's just that you took the Indian off of them and said that the Indian died out and they became Africans because of a look. Y'all look like them niggas over there we done already seen, so that gotta be y'all. Nah, you found us over here. We this.
And measures were taken to stop it, but the number of slaves brought in by this method was very small. A new asiento, in 1528, stipulating for the sale of Negroes at a maximum price of 45 pesos brought no relief. The slaves were carried to Hispaniola and other places because Cuba did not offer an attractive market. Finally, the king, to satisfy the import committee of the colonists, set aside the revenues of the island for 1 year. For the purpose of buying Negroes,
they had to save up for a year to be able to buy Negroes. This is 1526, so 1528 so-called. They saving up and how was they? And they saying there was some niggas there in the teens? No, just like I say, them was black people that was already here. They wasn't even bringing over no black people like that, man. And if they was from North Africa because they was Latinos. They was broken in, you know. They was vetted. They so-called wouldn't bring in motherfuckers from so-called the West Africa until the 20s or 30s, so-called. But we still know that that's foo-foo from all the little shipwrecks that's in what 1550s. We still in the 30s and 20s right now. And we just going to 41. And then on top of that, they try to say, well, The Portuguese was bringing them over. How the Portuguese bringing them over, and they didn't start their settlement. They didn't start their first settlement in Brazil until the 1520s. So they definitely weren't bringing nobody over before 1520s to the islands. All them people was coming straight from Spain. Spain didn't have the authority to go to Africa. Only Portugal. Spain was getting all their peoples from Spain until in the 20s or 30s. Or past that, I'm thinking it's way past that, to tell you the truth. But I'm just breaking down what they saying. I'm breaking their own shit down. I'm thinking the shit. I know the shit gotta be way further, but I'm breaking their shit down.
Who were to be distributed to settlers, giving security satisfactory to the officials for payment in 2 years. This order filled the island with joy, and the officials' reals wrote sagering that new and rich mines had been discovered which would assure a good revenue from the use of the Negroes. We are certain that God has given the island such riches because Your Majesty has made 2 Herrera, Historia General, December 3, Lib v. Cap. 3 Sacco, Historia de la Esclavitud de la Raza Africana, Volume 1, page 3. In 1537, the king, in order to lessen the labor of the Indians, ordered that 1,000 Negro slaves might be taken to Cuba.
Might be taken to Cuba. Suggest more, not official suggestions. They still trying to get. They're still so-called trying to, or that the Indians is dying off still. The Indians is dying off. So we may be, might be, it might be 1,000 going to Cuba. Not that we did send 1,000. It might be, and that's what 1527, 1537. It still ain't official that they got some niggas over there. You see that they had to save up for a year, and the king did that for them. Oh yeah, I'm just gonna stack y'all shit up.
Harrier Salef Historia General, December 4. Bountiful gifts to the island, one in sending it good justice, and the other in having the goodness to make the loan for the Negroes, *, this burst of pious delight was premature. On July 7, 1532, the Effigies Reals announced to the king that they had collected the 7,000 pesos for the promised 700 Negro slaves, but they wished to send the money to.
In 1532, that's when they got the money together. They so-called put this plan together in 1528. Now in 1532, they so-called gathered up $7,000, well, 7,000 pesos for 700 Negro slaves. Now let's see what's going on.
Bountiful gift. On July 7, 1532, the Effigies Reals announced to the king that they had collected the 7,000 pesos for the promised 700 Negro slaves, but they wished to send the money to Lisbon or Seville where slaves could be had at 10 pesos a head instead of at 40 pesos, which was the price delivered by contract in the islands. The king gave them permission to send the money, although the plan to purchase 700 Negroes in Portugal for 7,000 pesos made no provision for transportation. Perhaps the king noticed this discrepancy, for the Negroes never reached Cuba. Lacking.
The niggas never meets. The Negroes never got to Cuba. This is 1532. This is 1532. So in 1511, we got them finding, I guess them not finding Cuba, but settling in Cuba. They had sent a slave raid down to Central America once Balboa discovered black people there. But let's see what happened, because I don't even think I showed what happened. I'm supposed to come right back to that. Hold on. I'm supposed to come right back to that. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. So they saying the enslaved Africans first arrived in Cuba 1513, but then they tried to say it was 1511 that came with them, you know what I'm saying, on the expedition. But I guess enslaved, I guess they was free. But the enslaved, even though they tried to say that they were enslaved or whatever, but I guess these is enslaved 1513, which we know that's what I'm talking about. When they saying that the Africans came over here in 1513 is because she had so-called sent that fake voyage out where they rebelled and they end up selling back home, selling back to the Central America. These are the Maroons. These are the Maroons. But we got AI saying that enslaved Africans first arrived in Cuba 1513, just like the Smithsonian tried to say that Balboa had transported Africans to Panama in 1513. You see? Get into my city bag. You see? You see? Get into my city bag. You see? So let me get back to this real quick. I'm going to bring this back.
Any kind of skilled labor, faced with a rapidly decreasing population, the situation of the island was pitiful. In 1534, the governor said to the king, "The mines languish, costs are heavy, and taxes ought to be reduced in order to make amends to the plaintful citizens who sent to his majesty the 7,000 pesos, which they had destined to the purchase of negroes under the loan of 1531, carat with the failure of gold attempts were made one colexid de docontentos instados de Uyuramar carat 2 ser, volume 4, page 264.
These niggas still didn't even show up in the 1534. These niggas, it still ain't no niggas in Cuba in 1534. But it's supposed to be all these Africans getting imported over here when they're using the Maroons that they're finding in America and bringing them to the islands, and they're the ones that's running away and causing problems and doing all this, even though they look like these people, they look like Africans, they look like Canaries, but they finding them over here in Central America, finding them in the islands, finding them in South America, and enslaving them. And they're basically doing Indian stuff. And just like I said, the people that they were bringing over here, they were Africans. They were coming straight from Spain because they was born in Spain. They wasn't born in the wilderness like a wow man. They was born civilized, ready to go to work, Christianized, church. They're not wild. They're not chained up when they come over here on the boats. They're working with the Spaniards. They're boatmen or sailmen. They lightweight calling them Moors. These niggas ain't no wild Indians. They not people of this land. They can just go into the wilderness and build a town and build a house. These niggas is coming over here working for a job, trying to act like Spaniards. They not even calling themselves niggas. But just like I said, the niggas that they finding over here within the land, we getting disrespected because they not calling us over here in the land. They saying, well, shit, y'all look like them niggas over there. We done already seen before. That gotta be y'all. Nah, y'all found us here. We already got a name over here.
To establish new industries. Inquiries have been made in the Indies of the number of men required for sugar mills or ingenios, carrot and samples of different varieties of wheat have been sent over for trial. Conditions were unfavorable, however, and matters proceeded slowly. In 1534, Hernando de Castro asked a license to ship log fustic and offered to establish an ingenio at Santiago which would be the first in the island, and that the privileges enjoyed in Española be extended to the mills of Cuba. He wished to be allowed to introduce 50 Negroes before undertaking this. The next year the same offer to build a mill was made by the governor of Santiago, but no success in these undertakings appears to have been attained until 1547, when a trappage.
Niggas didn't even get over to Cuba till 1547. These niggas been trying to get niggas so-called to Cuba since the goddamn 1520s when they said that they was gonna be sending niggas straight from Africa. And these niggas still didn't get the niggas. It's 1547. And the reason that I'm bringing up that date, 1547, is because it's like I say, they playing with the terminology and the labeling. They're playing with it, and they're leaving they're leaving a lot out of the story, leaving a lot out the game, but then they're substituting the real for the fake when they saying African descent, and they're saying this African, they're just saying just, all type of crazy shit that they've been saying. It's because we come across this right here. No, that ain't it. Hold on. Because when we come across this right here, when we come across this right here in 1541, where it's a complaint basically about the Maroons. The Maroons, as we know, that it's supposed to be connected to African runaways that emancipated themselves, just people from Africa. When they came over here, they ran away and they did all this crazy shit, right? They wasn't even bringing over no black people, wild black people that they would say would be wild, straight from West Africa, straight from getting snatched up off their land. They ain't being they're bonzels or whatever they call them niggas. They not Latinos. They didn't even bring them niggas over till the so-called 1550, 1547. Everybody else that's so-called African is niggas that's motherfucking uppity Spaniards. Even though they working, but they gonna be getting, uh, they like the conquistadors. They like the people that's running with them. They kind of like in the army. They doing a lot of shit. They the cooks. They part of the society. They're born in Spain. But these motherfucking Maroons, these motherfucking Cimarroons, they finding all around this motherfucker. That's reminding them of the Canaries, the people from the Canaries, which we know that the people from the Canaries are brown skin. Their inheritance are Africans. And it's the look. Y'all niggas look like them niggas. Even we found y'all over here. We found y'all in the Bahamas, Hispaniola, Cuba. We found y'all niggas in y'all niggas look like these niggas over here in the Canary Islands. Niggas get down to Panama, find some niggas down. Y'all niggas look like these niggas. Damn. Y'all niggas look like these niggas in Ethiopia. But it ain't no respect. This nigga, y'all niggas is from there. It got a nigga. Y'all niggas, well, y'all niggas ain't from here. Yeah, niggas is from here. Just because niggas look like them niggas don't mean that niggas is them niggas. As you see, when we go back into the documents and we looking at the story, when we looking at the motherfucking story from 1511 to 1547, there's no real documentation of them bringing over West Africans. There's no historical documents, like the essay partner said. Ain't no historical documents for that shipwreck. It's a great story though. It's a legendary tale. But the thing is, the people is really here. Yeah. The people really here though. See, that's what they can't get past. The people really here. But niggas is trying to come up with some type of tale, some type of mystery to justify why these niggas is here in the new world. It's what they call the new world. Niggas ask nigga what they call they call it the new world, nigga. And they think they in India though, so they calling the people they're Indians, nigga, off the rip. That's why niggas push the Indian line, nigga. Mm-hmm. Niggas finna start pushing that maroon line real tough, dog. If you ain't a maroon, I don't know about you. That's for shiggity. because we finding that they are finding black people over here within these areas. So we broke down Panama, broke down Ecuador, broke down Carolinas. Now we in Cuba, busting this shit down. And it's simple though. They don't want niggas to do no real deep dive where niggas is studying for a whole month on 30 years. Yeah, it can get real dangerous. Niggas gonna have to shut the fuck up. YouTube won't even let me drop my link. I don't know what's going on with that, but it's all good. We're gonna keep it going though.
It was built at Santiago with the aid of sugar masters brought from.
We already there. 1547. What they say, what, 1518, 1517, the emperor, what the emperor do? What the emperor do? Let's bring that back. Let's bring that back. What the emperor do in 1518? Another suggestion. Niggas didn't start busting these moves until what, the 1520s? But we know this right here ain't nothing but the people that they was trying to get from Panama. These ain't niggas. They weren't bringing no niggas to Cuba in 1513. That's a lie. What, the first large group Africans entered 1520. Come on. That was another suggestion. As we read that what so-called in 1524, 300 slaves taken to Cuba. Come on, stop it. That's another suggestion. See, when they be throwing them numbers out there, these be suggestions. This was a suggestion right here. What, the first uprise of some Africans in 1533, but it's 4 niggas though. It's the uprise. 4 niggas. They so-called say it's 4. It's the uprising. 1533. And we know that these is niggas that's probably from Hispaniola, most likely, or they probably some indigenous niggas from over here. But just 4, I don't know about that. That sounds like some niggas from Spain. But as you see, they ain't deep. Because the real problem is coming with the people that's from the indigenous, the people that's from here, the people that's running back up on the settlers, setting shit on fire, taking crops, taking shit. Niggas gotta call for backup. What, you seen the motherfucking letter? What? These is the what? It's for the bad, dangerous ones. These is for the thugs. These is for them gangsters. Cimarron is for the bad Indians. You know how they try to make us look? You know how they try to make us look. But what this talking about?
What is marronage, right? I dug into the historiography. One interesting thing that I found is that, you know, there are all these incredible books about Maroon communities, but there's very little, like, there's not one definition of what is a Maroon and what is a Maroon community. There are several characteristics, right? So it's principally applied to these self-emancipated communities of African origin. However, you know, they're often, if not always, relying on some degree of cooperation from indigenous people who are local to the area. Part of just knowing the terrain, which is usually in these hinterlands or borderland areas where territorial control becomes a little blurred. They're relying on collaboration, but not just with Amerindians. They're also, you know, to a degree, still part of the colonial system that is sort of characterized by slavery. Slavery doesn't exist without resistance to it. So, you know, Richard Price, who is sort of the big figure in Maroon literature, said that successful Maroon communities worked out fairly extensive economic relations with colonial societies and harnessed a surprising amount of collusion by members of almost all social classes, right? So they're leveraging economic or political or military might in order to, you know, get concessions. This is what we see most often across the Caribbean, probably most famously in Jamaica. They are going to be politically recognized and can be hired out, or you know, their territory cannot be infringed. So a lot of these characteristics that I'm reading about African Maroon communities, they seem to really.
And this been going on since the beginning. This been going on since the beginning. The mislabeling.
Correlate with.
We been the Maroons. Understand that. You gotta understand that. We been the Maroons. You gotta understand that.
With what might be these instances of indigenous people fleeing enslavement themselves. And so I am a historian, so I went to the documentary record. And sure enough, like, I knew that the term Maroon itself came from a Spanish word, cimarron. And the first applications of the term cimarron in the Americas and the Caribbean is about Spanish livestock that are like running away and becoming wild. So as insulting as that is, the origin of the word, that is what it is. It is very quickly applied not to self-emancipating enslaved people of African origin, but to indigenous communities. So the Spanish fairly quickly, especially in the Caribbean, start trying to organize indigenous life in a separation between what they call Indios Bravos or Cimarrones. And
these are the same people that look like the Canaries. These are the same people that look like the Canaries. How did Christopher Columbus describe the people from the islands? He thought that the people from the islands resembled the Guanche of the Canary Islands. What we know about the Canary Islands? The people to the south are a rather brown color, either from inheritance or from the hot climate. Their skins very toasted by the sun as they go about nearly naked. But on the other side, they are white, and the women are beautiful, rosy, with long hair. But you know what's so crazy? They trying to say that white thing, but these niggas gonna have to give it up because a lot of these niggas were saying that they grandmas or they peoples back then could pass for a white person, right? That's what a lot of these niggas be pushing. Ah, nigga, my grand, ain't nothing wrong with that either. Ain't nothing wrong with that either. But you definitely gonna understand this from somebody that was down there with them people that lived in the Canary Islands, that know about their history, that know about they old peoples that's from there, and that's a Jesuit priest, which he could be lying. We know they the dirtiest ones in the game back then. But he's giving a description. Whoever thought that this would come back like this, and this is wrote in the 1500s, the 1600s when he wrote this. He wrote this in the late 1500s, early 1600s. And what'd he say? Hold on, let me get this right. And what'd he say? My own is that, which his opinion is that the Guanche derive their descendants from Africans as well because of the how they so close to the mainland, and by reason of too close resemblance in customs and language, in the method of counting. Now, I'm also gonna, I'm gonna put the whole thing in the game. Fuck it. I'm gonna put the whole thing in the game on what they said about the people. Remember, I want you to keep in mind and remember this. I want you to keep in mind and remember this. Christopher Columbus described the people on the islands, Pacific Bahamas, the Bahamas, resembled the Guanche. And then on top of that, they say, oh yeah, peep this out. They also say that they brought over enslaved Canary Island people, which I'm going to read back in that book, The Life and Voyages of Christopher Columbus. I'm going to bring that back to show how they were saying that the Canary Island people was running down the people from the islands when they was capturing them, when they was doing what, you know what I'm saying, when they was running up on the people. And that was way before in the game, before I knew all this other shit. But I'm gonna bring that back though, because I seen that in that book. Niggas didn't think I read that whole book. Yeah, I read that whole book, nigga. It's a crazy book.
volcano. There is a full Garachico, the Guanches Islands.
Hold on.
The molten rivers
Got on the
flowed
wrong-
down more than a league to the sea.
Hold on, now here we go.
The force of the fire was so great that it warmed the sea for a distance of half a league from the coast.
Okay.
Considering
hold on,
this,
hold on.
one say that what is said of this island,
Here's
this
the right place. Here we go.
Chapter 4. Of the people who formerly inhabited this island. In former times this island was inhabited by the natives of it, whom we call Guanches. It has not been possible to ascertain their origin or whence they came, for as the natives had no letters, they had no account of their origin or descent, although some tradition may have come down from father to son. Hence there have been many opinions on the subject. Some say they are descended from the Romans, although it does not appear whence they came, nor on what authority Tulgi opinion is founded. Others say that they are descended. Guanche is a corruption of Guanche. Traditions of or 10 in 27 from certain tribes in Africa, who rose against the Romans and killed their praetor, or judge. Che may be the article. Tynerfi.
Hold on, you heard that? You hear that? Others say that they are descendants. So some say they are descendants from Romans. Others say they are descendants.
Traditions of or 10 in 27 from certain tribes in Africa, who rose against the Romans and killed their praetor, or
They are descendants or their descendants from certain tribes of Africa who rose against the Romans and killed their judge. You feel me? So some say the Romans, some say they're Africans. Let's keep it going.
judge. As a punishment for this, instead of killing them all, some had their tongues cut out, so that, having no pens or paper, they could not hand down an account of the rising. They were then put into boats without oars, and committed to the sea and to their fate. These exiles came to the islands and peopled them. If the natives descend from men without tongues, they could not know much of their origin. Others say that when Cerberus was pursued by the Romans, having abandoned his place in government, he fled with a company consisting of Africans and other nations. Having heard
Nigga said they cut out their tongue so they won't be able to tell their origins. They won't be able to pass down. They won't be able to talk to their sons. Huh? Who gonna get done like that? Who get hated on the most in the world? All right, I'll let you figure that out.
of the fertility of these islands from some sailors when they were at Cadiz, the followers of Sertorius, after his death, to avoid falling into the hands of the Romans, gave up everything to go in search of the islands, and in this way they were peopled. There is another author who says that, in ancient times, these islands were as near Africa as Sicily is to Italy, but that, in course of time, owing to storms and floods, they became more
As Sicily is to Italy, basically saying that these is Africans because it's connected to Africa.
distant. The people that came to the islands remained ignorant of the art of navigating, each remaining on their own island without communication. The old Guanches themselves say that they have an immemorial tradition that 60 people came to this island, but they know not whence they came. They united and formed their settlement near Icod, which is a place on this island, and they gave it this name, which is a word in their language. Alzoxikishan of Kanabak Xenix means, the jace of union of the son of the Great One. Asterisk a place on the west coast of the island. Milk and grease are the Guanche traditions. The reader can adopt any one of these opinions that seems most probable. My own is that the Guanches derive their descent from Africans, as well because of the contiguity of the mainland, as by reason of the close resemblance in customs and language, and the method of counting, carat it may be added that the words for Gofia carat, milk, and grease are the same. Those who desire to know, have noticed that there are people in these islands whose traditions go back 1,520 years.
Come on now. They look like black people. They look like black people, man.
And Indios Mansos, which essentially domesticated. And those domesticated these Christian, emancipating enslaved people of African origin, but to indigenous communities. So the Spanish
African, or they not African origin. They from here, American origin.
fairly quickly, especially in the Caribbean, start trying to organize indigenous life in a separation between what they call Indios Bravos or Cimarrones and Indios Mansos, which essentially domesticated. And those domesticated, these Christianized, docile indigenous people should have a level of autonomy and protection of the Spanish crown in these pueblos de Indios that are literally Indian villages, right? European people cannot live in them. They are controlled by a local leader, though the Spanish crown can exercise some level of control as well. But the primary purpose in this documentary record is to separate these Maroon Indians, the bad, dangerous ones, from the good Indians, right? And so just to give you an example, a lot of this is happening in the 1530s and 1540s, especially when Hernando de Soto is governor of Cuba. So there's a lot of records, accessible records for that period. And there's a whole series of sort of, these are documents from a series of justicia. So they're legal records to a degree. And, you see the application in this particular example that they're applying resources to combat the regiment of Maroon Indians, right? These bad, dangerous, unchristianized, heathen, and autonomous groups that are popping up in direct relation to abuses. So these documents are filled with acknowledgments by Spanish authorities that these people are running away because they are dying in droves and they're being worked to death. Right? To me, that sounds very much like marronage. And indeed, that is literally the term that they use. So why am I telling
You broke it down perfectly. Broke it down perfectly. Shout out to the historian that's coming up out of the Georgia University. So what Christopher Columbus discovers Cuba, 1492. Been tripping over there with them people that favored the Canary Islands. Well, 1508, Ocampo sailed around Cuba, proving it is an island. In 1511, Diego conquered Cuba, fighting Vitiano and other nations, then found several towns, including Havana. 2500 Taínos welcomed the Spaniards with a feast, then a slaughter. Got at them. 1513. First record of slavery in Cuba. Landowner get promise to bring 4 African slaves. Promise. Just 4. 1530. You would think that'd be what they said it's supposed to be. What they was getting, what, 300? What, so-called 11 years later? No, stop that. In the 1520s, they weren't sending no more than 400, not 4, but 40 people probably. They said 1524. We got 1514. Narvaez established Havana after the chief. 1517. Some Africans arrived. Larger group, 300 in the 1520s. The ones that was in the teens was coming from the island. Was coming from South America and Central America. You got 1520, 7 years after the first small group of Africans enslaved was kidnapped into Cuba. Small group, 1520. The first large group, 300 total. 300 to work in the mines. Cedula established the right for a slave to purchase their own freedom. What I tell you, that they was just workers, that they wasn't the people, they wasn't bringing over people before this time, definitely before this time, 1526, 1528. So, matter of fact, they didn't even bring over no West Africans till 1547. All these other people is Spaniards that's black people that's born in Spain. These are Latinos that's working the job and that's gonna be able to get their own. You know what I'm saying? They working a job to come up, get their own spot. They not enslaved, even though they black people. So we got 1533. First documented uprise. What I tell you, 4 slaves. I told you that, 4 slaves. Hold on. Stopped at 1524. Stopped at. I think we read that in the book or something like that about the uprise. But you seen it within this build already. But I'm showing you what's on the timeline. That was on the timeline. And it was in the Jabo mines, fight to death with the Spanish soldiers to reduce the colonists' fears. Their heads were removed and put on display in Benyoma. And Ben Yomo. Bayomo. Or Bay. Bayamo. But you know what's so crazy about that Bayamo or Bayamo is because of the so-called African slave that had the biggest rebellions with the Maroons down in Colombia and Panama in the 1570s, 1580s, and they ended up shipping them to Spain, and he ended up dying there. His name was Bayano with an N instead of the O, with an N instead of the M. Ain't that interesting? 1538, the French pirates, and with the help of rebel slaves, burned the city of Havana. There are 6 Christian towns in Cuba at the time. San Diego, 80 houses. Havana, 70 between 80 houses. Barranco, which we know that's a black town. Sound like a black town with that co at the end. They got the Porto Principal, and Santa Spirits, and Bayamo, which sounds like a black's residence with 30 to 40 homes each. And then you see this in 1550. The Spanish crown allows wealthy merchant group to import Africans to Cuba. I told you they didn't start getting people that came straight from Africa didn't get there till the 1550s, 1547. All these other people were Spaniards. They ain't turning into the woods and turning wild and turning into no Indians and turning into Maroons and semi-Maroons, the bad Indians. No, they not doing that. They working. They trying to get a family. They're going to church. They're playing their part in the society. They playing a part within the society. So there we go. There we go. Once again, them playing by them saying that they have a certain type of black person playing this position, because when they get over here, they already wild, and they turning wild. They don't want to work, and they're going crazy. And they're going into the woods and they're disturbing, they're burning towns, they're stealing, they're murdering. They're starting their own towns and villages. They're starting to be leaders. These are supposed to be these are supposed to be the people that's coming from a warrior society. These are supposed to be people that's coming from a warrior background, right? But just like we seen within this video, basically all the way up to 1550, 1547, from when they first got to Cuba in 1511, they wasn't bringing over nobody from West Africa. If they were an African, they were born in Spain and they were a citizen. And they was working to get a house and to be able to move like they're seeing like they're seeing other black men that's so-called conquistadors, and they're running things and they're being justified and getting their liberty. They're getting their liberty. But it's crazy, man. Nigga did it again, man. Shit ain't gonna stop. I'm going all through the Americas with it. I'm going all through the Americas with it, right? Excuse me. And then on top of that, they didn't even start making suggestions for real Africans because they know that the other people is Spaniards because they respected at that time they Ladinos. They not looking at this. Matter of fact, they a buy a damn slave. They may put a nigga to work around this motherfucker. Cause they didn't got their game that tight, right? They didn't got their game that tight. But we see that they tried to put salt in the game by saying that the first Africans came in 1513, which we know that that's the same year that Balboa discovered the Maroons in Panama, which the the Cuban governor sent a fleet down there to that area to go try to get on too. Basically, shit, we finna go get on too. You know what I'm saying? And it's just how the things go, man. You just gotta add that shit up, man. Gotta add it up, man. It's like these boys are trying to tell me with the black people that they were finding, that they keep finding, and that we will keep finding. Oh man, there was black people that was already over here, and they the ones that's running into the mountains. They the ones that's coming to Maroons. Like they already wild. But we're seeing in all the documentations that these are black people that's born in Spain, so they don't really know nothing about Africa. Their first culture is Spain. They're Ladinos. They dress like the Spaniards. All type of shit, right? They saying these is the niggas, the pretty Tony niggas that's coming over here running into the woods and beating up on the Indians and telling them what to do, and them what got them joining. Man, stop it, man. These is black people from the area that already had these people hearts, man. You know what I'm saying? They gonna ride with the big homie regardless. You know what I'm saying? They're riding with the chief and king regardless. What? So we get to what? 1528. They promise. What the king say? All right, we're gonna put some money back for a year to be able to get y'all on. We're gonna put some money back for a year to be able to get y'all on, right? So, you know what happened? What, 4 years later, they saved up what, $7,000, 7,000 pesos to be able to get 700 slaves. And then somebody put a twist in the game or put a whoop in the game and said, hold on, we want to get, hold on, because we can get them at a better price over there in Portugal. We're going to try to go over there to Portugal. And somebody put some salt in the game and they ain't even get no slaves. That was 1834. Then we find out again in what, 1541. We just go back to the book. So in 1534, matter of fact, I'll go and let him say it.
To establish new industries. Inquiries had been made in the Indies of the number of men required for sugar mills or ingenios, carrot, and samples of different varieties of wheat had been sent over for trial. Conditions were unfavorable, however, and matters proceeded slowly. In 1534, Hernando de Castro asked a license to ship log fustic and offered to establish an ingenio at Santiago, which would be the first in the island, and that the privileges enjoyed in Española be extended to the mills of Cuba. He wished to be allowed to introduce 50 Negroes before undertaking this. The next year the same offer to build a mill was made by the governor of Santiago, but no success in these undertakings appears to have been attained until 1547.
They tried to get it popping in 1535. Wasn't successful to get no blacks over there until 1547. So-called from Africa. Because the other ones are Spaniards. And they working up to a status. Because they're handpicked. Right? Right? And it's like I say, ain't no way that they coming over here and turning into Indians. There's no way that they're coming over here and they turn into people like this. You see how it's breaking that down? Hold on. Because it's a couple of because it's a couple of pages I want to go back to be able to you know what I'm saying, to be able to prove my point even more of when I had brought up the fact that the people that Sir Francis Drake was running around and was coming up on, which is this is in the 1570s in Panama. It's the indigenous people. That's the Maroons. And just like I was showing, and just like I was showing with this like I was showing with this letter, the Maroons in 1541. You know what I'm saying? And we know these are the Cimarroons. These are the black people that's from here. The black people that's from here. You heard all the crazy stuff that I had mentioned the other day. This is the stuff that I had left out that I had, you know what I'm saying, that I didn't mean to leave out, that I did leave out. And let me see if I can go on and find it within this text that I thought that was real crazy. Hold on. Let me get this back going. Hold on, let me find it real quick. Or we can play a little game and you can see if you can find what I'm trying to look for. You can put it in the chat and say that you found it before I did. No, this ain't it. Hold on, no, this ain't it. Hold on. Go back to the same page. Okay, my bad. I'm tripping. My bad. We go to 33. Hold on. Okay, here we go. My bad for that. Uh, do, 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 do. Okay, yeah, here we go. This what I thought that was very interesting for this to be a maroon, so-called somebody's from Africa. Somebody's from Africa, right? This is a so-called runaway community from people from Africa, so-called, right? You know, so-called, right? People from Africa, right? So-called, right? You heard all the other crazy stuff that I was bringing up. This is another crazy thing. This is definitely crazy. So check this out. Okay, here we go. Okay, here we go. So let me go on and start right here. Let me start right here. Okay, the Maroons, the Seminoles, Yoho Pio, you know, resumed their courage in getting together, fell so fiercely on the Spaniards that flying into the woods without a guide, most of them perished by famine. And not above 30 escaped to carry the news to those that some of them, as you see that the page is kind of covered up, some of the words covered up that first word, basically to let them know. The king dealt in a city 16 leagues. He's talking about the Cimarron. Dealt in the city 16 leagues southeast of Panama, which is in the same area where Balboa had found the Pacific Ocean in the Cuba district, southeast of Panama, and was able to rally 1,700 fighting men. This is in 1572. 1,700 fighting man in 1572. These are the Maroons. These are the Maroons. These are the Seminoles. These are the Seminoles that's from Panama. So when we seeing this term right here, Cimarron, we know that they talking about black people. And these are the people that's from there, that's fighting hard, that know the land. They basically the field Negroes. Say he gonna get, what he say he gonna get? Said that he gonna rally up and able to rally 1,700 fighting men. They are very earnest with Captain Drake to stay 2 or 3 days, managing to double this number of men in that time. If he thought good, he could double that and have 3,400. He can have 3,400 fighting men in 1572. Now, do you see what I'm talking about? Do you see what I'm talking about? This Maroon shit is deep. I don't know what these niggas talking about. If these niggas ain't talking no Maroon, no Indian shit, I don't know. If Maroon ain't, if niggas ain't yo ho pee ho, I don't know. If you ain't no Seminole, I don't know. I don't know. I do not know. So let me take a look at one more thing that I thought that was interesting. Another thing that I thought that was interesting. when we start right here, okay. So we're gonna start right here. 2 days before their departure. This is before they go back to England on in the 1570s. This is before they go back to England in the 1570s. And they trying to tell us, cause we got the professor that's over there at the A10, the A in North Carolina, A&T, and there's no shots at Professor Smallwood when I say this, but he's saying that the reason that is black Indians in the Carolinas is because of Sir Francis Drake, and also because of the early Spaniards, that whenever they're coming in and they're trying to settle, that they are bringing over Africans and they are populating with the Indians and making black Indians. But I thought that this was very interesting to be able to shut down that theory of 600, where they say it's a number of 700, 600, 300, 200 of number of Africans that got dropped off in North Carolina in the Roanoke area whenever Sir Francis Drake came and picked up some of the colonists and took them back to England in 1586. But we can see when we start reading right here where it says 2 days before their departure, Drake desired Pedro, and three of which Pedro is a chief, the number one chief. So we got Pedro and three of the chief Maroons. So it's more than one chief to go aboard his two frigates, his two boats, and take what they liked. So it were not absolutely necessary for their voyage to England. And the captain presented to them several silks and linen for their wives. Once again, Drake desired Pedro and three of his chief Seminoles, Maroons, Yo-Ho Piho, to go aboard his two boats and take what they liked. So it were not absolutely necessary for their voyage to England. And what the Smithsonian say, the reason why they didn't take them to England in 1586 was because there was no slave market for them up there. So why would he take them? So why? Okay, so he's supposed to form a town in Roanoke because they try to say that it was all planned for They're saying that it's all planned for the Africans to be a part of the first, you know what I'm saying, their first settlement. And that's why he was going to so-called drop them off there. But there is no historical documentation. It's only hearsay. And I think we're going to end it on that tonight. I think we're going to end it on that tonight. Hold on. Let's see if there's anything else that I need to. Oh, yeah, I also want to put this out there also. How they try to say when I go to Wikipedia, the history, and say since the 1550s, the Spaniards have relied on indigenous Taino population for their primary enslaved labor. The indigenous people since the 1550s, just like I showed you, just like when they say the primary enslaved labor, they saying going up to the 1550s, they was saying that these niggas was dying off in the 15 teens. But they used them so-called all the way up to the 1550s, which I show you that they really didn't bring over West Africans until that time. Everything else, if they was black that got brought over, was from Spain. Was from Spain. Born in Spain. Ladinos don't know nothing about no woods. Trying to get at the white girls. These are type of brothers. You hear me? So, yeah, I think that's it. We've been 2 minutes. I mean, not 2 minutes, but 2 hours. You know, trying to get this information out about Maroons. About the Maroons that's from Cuba. The Maroons that's from Cuba, which we know that the West Africans wasn't in Cuba until the 1550s. Before that was the Maroons and the Indians from America, the indigenous people that was enslaved, or there were black Latinos that was born in Spain that was part of the civilization that did a little working, but they wasn't an enslaved type working. There was a difference. We're going back to the beginning when they first started getting into these areas. We can go back 1511, 1513. We go back 1511 when they first got to Cuba, 1513 when they so-called first got the first black or the first Africans, which we know that those were black people from South America and Central America, and the other black people from the islands that favored the Canary Island people, which are Africans, which look like black people, 1526, 1518, the emperor said that they're gonna send over 4,000. It's just a promise. It's not. There's no facts to that. It's just a suggestion. That was 1518. 1526, there was another suggestion to send over people from West Africa, straight from Africa, instead of people coming from Spain. They want a different type of black person. But as we see, they didn't get nothing popping until 1528, where the king said, all right, well, we're going to save your money up for a year, try to get y'all in the game. They had to end up waiting 4 years to 1832 to when they saved up 7,000 pesos for 700 Negroes. But somebody put some oo-wop in the game. The middleman straight shiced them and took their little bread and said, well, hold on, I got a better price over here with the Portugals, where we're gonna get some more at a better price. And they never did receive what they bought. To the fact in 1534 that they were to the fact in 1534 that they had put in another suggestion for 50 more, for 50 slaves. And somebody else did it again in 1535, and it didn't pop off. It was all successful. It was all unsuccessful attempts. It was all failures to get people straight from Africa to Cuba until 1547, 1550. That whole time, it was the Maroons, the bad, dangerous ones. You feel me? The thugs. You feel me? Do you feel me? The thugs. The bad ones. You know how they label us? You know how they label us? Who you think he talking to like that? Who you think that he talking to like that? Oh yeah, I also gotta put in the fact that when we talking about the people from the islands, they resemble the people from the Canary Islands, which resemble Africans. You gotta understand that it's about the look. The look of y'all niggas look like these niggas. Y'all gotta be them. That's y'all. But the thing is, they found us over here. They found. That means you indigenous. That means that you're an Indian. That means that you're a Maroon. The original. The original. You understand? And do you understand, man? Man, this was a good build tonight. Just another diamond in the rough for you for sure. Cuba. 1541. The Maroons. Tell a friend to tell a friend and do it again. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend and do it again. To comment, like, subscribe, and share. Comment, like, subscribe, and share, man. That's it. That's it. But until then, man, y'all have a good one, man. I see didn't too many people pull up tonight. No smoke going live. A lot of other people probably doing their thing, but I'm just gonna get the information out here. I ain't tripping on. Yeah, I'm a do me for sure. I ain't tripping on nobody else. I ain't tripping on nobody else. But just like I say, niggas can always hit the link, or I can try to be able get somehow to get the link out there so niggas can come up and niggas can chop up if niggas want to chop it up. But I ain't going to nigga shit. Niggas that I feel like that's sneak dissing, doing all that goofy shit. I ain't fucking with them niggas. You know what I'm saying? But niggas can hit my link though. Yeah, niggas can hit my link for sure. But man, y'all have a good one, man. Stay up out there.